tribute of patriotic sacrifice more generously, and there were doubtless occasions when its citizens remembered the early days of glory when their fathers helped to chase the retreating British on the first shedding of blood in the War of Independence. But now they have enough to think of under the pressure of the hour. Their trade is paralyzed under the operation of the tariff. Their shipping is rotting in port, except so much of it as is sold to foreigners. There is much poverty in low places and dread of further commercial adversity among the chief citizens. But there is the same vigorous pursuit of intellectual interests and pleasures throughout the society of the place that there always is wherever any number of New Englanders have made their homes beside the church, the library, and the school. Whatever other changes may occur from one age or period to another, the features of natural scenery are, for the most part, unalterable. Massachusetts Bay is as it was when the Pilgrims cast their first look over it, its blue waters, as blue as the seas of Greece, rippling up upon the sheeted snow of the sands in winter, or beating against rocks glittering in ice. In autumn, the pearly waves flowing in under the thickets of gaudy foliage, and on summer evening the green surface surrounding the amethyst islands, when white foam spouts out of the caves and crevices. On land there are still the craggy hills and the jutting promontories of granite, where the barberry grows as the bramble does with us, and room is found for the farmstead between the crags, and for the apple trees and the little slopes of grass and patches of tillage, where all else looks barren. The boats are out or ranged on shore according to the weather, just as they were from the beginning, only in larger numbers, and far away, on either hand, the coasts and islands, the rocks and hills and rural dwellings, are as of old, save for the shrinking of the forest and the growth of the cities and villages, whose spires and schoolhouses are visible here and there. The Salemite of 40 years ago. Yet there are changes, marked and memorable, both in Salem and its neighborhood, since the date of 37 years ago. There was then an exclusiveness about the place as evident to strangers, and as dear to natives as the rivalship between Philadelphia and Baltimore. While far more interesting and honorable in its character, in Salem society there was a singular combination of the precision and scrupulousness of Puritan manners and habits of thought with the pride of cultivated and traveled community, boasting acquaintance with people of all known faiths and familiarity with all known ways of living and thinking while adhering to the customs, and even the prejudices, of their fathers. While relating theological conversations held with literal Buddhists or lax Mohammedans, your host would whip his horse to get home at full speed by sunset on a Saturday, that the groom's Sabbath might not be encroached on for 5 minutes. The houses were hung with odd Chinese copies of English engravings and furnished with a variety of pretty and useful articles from China, never seen elsewhere, because none but American traders had then achieved any commerce with that country but in tea, nankeen, and silk. The Salem Museum was the glory of the town, and even of the state. Each speculative merchant who went forth with or without a cargo, and the trade in ice was then only beginning, in his own ship, with his wife and her babes, was determined to bring home some offering to the museum. If he should accomplish a membership of that institution by doubling either Cape Horn or the Cape of Good Hope, he picked up an old cargo somewhere and trafficked with it for another, and so he went on, if not rounding the world, seeing no small part of it, and making acquaintance with a dozen eccentric potentates and barbaric chiefs, and sovereigns with widely celebrated names. And whether the adventurer came home rich or poor, he was sure to have gained much knowledge and to have become very entertaining in discourse. The houses of the principal merchants were pleasant abodes, each standing alone beside the street, which was an avenue thick strewn with leaves in autumn and well shaded in summer. Not far away were the woods, where lumbering went on, for the export of timber to Charleston and New Orleans, and for the furniture manufacture, which was the main industry of the less fertile districts of Massachusetts in those days. Here and there was a little lake, a pond, under the shadow of the woods, yielding water lilies in summer and ice for exportation in winter. As soon as that happy idea had occurred to some fortunate speculator, on some knoll there was sure to be a schoolhouse. Amid these and many other pleasant objects, and in the very center of the stranger's observations, there was one spectacle that had no beauty in it. Just as in the happy course of the life of the Salem community, there was one fearful period. That dreary object is the Witch's Hill at Salem, and that fearful chapter of history is the tragedy of the witch delusion. How the subject was opened. Our reason for selecting the date of 37 years ago for our glance at the Salem of the last generation is that at that time a clergyman resident there fixed the attention of the inhabitants on the history of their